Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, and tonight we're delving into the wonderful, fantastical world of dreaming in the time of dragons with the author, our special guest, G. Claire. And she's here tonight. Say hi. Say hi.
Hi.
Who we
And
got? Go
the
ahead.
G, I was going to say the initial G stands for Galen. So feel free to call me Galen.
Yes, we are excited you're here. And because we're dreaming in the time of dragons, I brought my little pet dragon. Yes, this is Banshee, and Banshee is quite the little guy. I mean, always up to no good. And he's not quite like the dragons in your book. He's very friendly. He gets along very well with my cats. Yes, he does. And I'm telling you, I just thought it would be a lot of fun because I always like to play dress up when I have authors. So I thought this was perfect for tonight. I've got all my lavender fairy stuff on, but we are excited about your book. And I am showing, this is the new one, right? The new cover.
Yes, that looks like the new one.
I
It does.
was hoping I grabbed the right one because I have them in the same stack. But it says,
Yes.
when is a dragon not a dragon? When is a prince not a prince? When do you burn evidence of your royalty and run disguised as a boy? Eva finds her royal birthright has come at a high price, one that could cost her her life. In the midst of dark intrigue, she must decide what to do. Trust the words of a mysterious traveler, or stay in the castle, hoping to restore the ruined kingdom of Dunbar. She knows one day she must face a danger sprung to life from the most frightening tale she knows. On forever. Oh, be looking over her shoulder. I'm telling you, when I, heard about the story, I've been wanting to get more into fantasy, and so many of our young people that join the Pulpit Queens really love the fantasy worlds, and we picked Pierce Brown. We picked a lot of different ones, but this one is one that I feel you can share with the whole family. So as we're
Yes.
social distancing, it's perfect for story time at home. So right
It
now,
is.
because all of this is going on our YouTube channel, my Kathy L. Murphy YouTube channel. I want for the ones that have never heard of your book or know anything about you, I want you to just give us an overview of everything that you're done. And I'm going to let little Banshee go on and play with the kitties. So bye bye. We'll see you later.
I'm my little banshee.
Little Banshee is headed out. So go ahead, Claire. It's all up to you. You go ahead.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
I
G.
okay. Either one is
Claire.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up in Florida. I now live in North Georgia, just to kind of give some background. And so I've been thinking about what inspired me to write this book. And it really happened when I was teaching art. I was an art teacher for a long time, taught middle and high school girls. Yay. And so they would come to my classroom after class and we would talk about things that mattered to them, things that troubled them, their hopes and dreams. And these are really things that connect us all. So during this time, I noticed there were certain questions that were pretty much a constant thread and voiced in various ways throughout our conversations. And if I could put it succinctly, it would be, who am I really? And why am I here on this earth at this particular time in history? And then this is a big one. Am I worth being loved truly? And am I able to truly love in return? So that's to kind of encapsulate what I was hearing from them. So this story began to just kind of form in my heart because I knew, well, even though my target audience was young women, 12 and up, we'll say that, it has expanded to women of all ages because we never lose that young girl who hopes and dreams. And she might sleep for a while, but she wakes up, and when she does, oh my goodness, the adventure begins. So this is that picture that I posted today with her tearing through. That's kind of the pinch point in the beginning of the story where she realizes I'm in great danger. Something must be done, and I'm going to have to do it. So,
Empowering
anyway,
women. I love it. I love it. That's great.
yes, she has one catch though, because she's the daughter of the king, who is not a good guy. He's kind of drained the kingdom. The people in the kingdom don't like him, and because of that, they don't like her. She needs to find a way to get to safety. And I won't give away too much, but just to say her her protection in the castle, her day-to-day routines, and also what is expected of her have become her own personal gilded prison bars. And this confinement is keeping her not only from her desires and her destiny, but also will shortly bring about her death. So there is a friend who comes alongside, and he has kind of the missing piece to the puzzle of how do I, do this. And so I'm going to just go forward to what does the dragon embody in this story? And it is the dragon is symbolic and embodies things that would keep us and keep her from her destiny, from her desires, and also from discovering the wonder of who she is really and living out of that place. So, and I've heard it said that every person could be compared to a vast and undiscovered land. There's so much mystery to who we are. And so to kind of uncover some of that and to explore, who she is really and what can she really do. So as far as the ending, I'm not going to tell what that is because it's, it's kind of a big ending. And, you don't really know what might happen up until the very end. So, but I think it's really a story of discovery, redemption, forgiveness, and even finding out what does it mean to truly be a friend and to truly love without expecting something in return. So anyway, that is kind of the short story. Any question you have about that?
Well, I just want to say what is wonderful to me is these are all questions we've been asking of ourselves as we've been sitting at home, social distancing. What am I doing here? Who am I?
Yes.
I mean, for 2 years, I've been, I live in a cabin in the woods, and you really, it gives you time to reflect on what you want to do with the rest of your life. So the story may have started out as a young adult book, but it's definitely a crossover because I think we're all trying to find that. And it's a great story about something that is empowering. It's also about being proactive.
Yes.
So many of us resign themselves to life, especially as we get older in age. And I'm saying, I'm getting out of here. I'm going out of here big. I'm just, I'm doing all the things I've ever dreamed of. If I
Yes.
want to play dress up, if I want to do this, I think it's either now or never. So I cannot recommend this book enough. I know you're having some allergy problems.
I am. I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, if you have some water, but I just thought maybe at some point it might be kind of cool if you wanted to read a snippet of the book. If you have something in particular, if you can get through it, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
And if you
It's just some kind of pollen. Yeah.
if you haven't seen the book, there's just so many your art throughout the book, and even the little images at the beginning of chapter heads are just, it's all just so well thought out. And I truly think this is a family wonderful share book. And it doesn't matter even if you have children. I think you could share it with, you know, your mother or your sister or whatever. Take turns reading it aloud. I don't think there's anything more fun than sharing a story. So if you found that little place in the book,
I do. I have it. Yes, and no worries about my voice. I'll just get a sip of water if I need to. All right. So, like, how much would you like for me to read? Just a page or
get
something?
through whatever message you're trying to send to us. You know, not
Okay. All right. So, I'll just set this up. Eva is feeling closed in on all sides and wondering, what am I going to do at this particular time in history? And this is, even though this is a fantasy place, it is somewhat, it's got medieval underpinnings. So we can go there. And in castles, they would have chapel every night. And so this is one of the Vespers, I think they call them here. All right. Oh, okay. I thought I was there. I'm actually at another place. She is actually about to save a friend of hers who has been confined to the dungeon. And so she waits for the right time, and soon the quiet she was waiting for filled the castle. Eva opened her door a crack and heard soft snores from the rooms beside hers. She silently closed her door, put on her dressing gown, grabbed a small flask, and lit her candle. The secret panel opened to her touch. Nothing had changed. Quickly, she descended the dark, dizzying spiral staircase. Her fingers brushed over the rough, damp stone wall, steadying her steps. Finally, reaching the bottom, she found the key ring under the cluttered shelf, promising herself to come back one day and sift through the ancient debris. The dungeon warden had his sleeping quarters outside the heavy prison door, securing the cells against any possible escape. On the opposite side of the dungeon, he was likely asleep, but she couldn't be sure. Taking the small flask of oil from her pocket, she poured some of the golden liquid into the keyhole and waited. When it had time to do its work, she silently dipped the long, rusty key in the now lubricated slot in the door. There was a small click, and the door opened a bit. She pushed a little more, bracing herself for the stench. Her candle shone through the door crack, cutting a slice of light through the pitch black. She stepped in, covering her mouth with her dressing gown sleeve to keep from retching. Dark shadows loomed and moved around her, moving past dark, empty cells. She heard quiet weeping at the end closest to the warden's door. "Brooken," Eva gasped. The weeping stopped. Stepping up to the thick wooden door, she lifted her candle to the square barred opening and peered in. A shaft of light fell on Brooken, crouched on a filthy stone floor littered with straw. She blinked into the light. "Who is it?" she whispered. "Shh, it's me." Eva put her face beside the candle. "I'm getting you out." need to find keys. So I'll stop there. But this is a relationship between Eva and one of the kitchen servants. And she thinks she's just helping this girl, this young woman, to escape. But as it turns out, Brooken is a tremendous help to her later in her flight. So in her escape. So anyway, it has different connections throughout the story, but that is just, a passage that might find interesting.
Now, I couldn't quite figure out where this book was set. You've got, this wonderful image in the front of Dunmore, where you can see.
Yes.
And I'm thinking in my mind, Scotland, Ireland. Have you been these places, or England?
Yes.
Okay. And
I
so
have.
what was the one that was the most influential about, making this fictitious place?
Scotland was definitely, yes. I tell you, when I was driving through Scotland with some friends, it was like I could feel the stories in the hills, and you just go through, and it's just like richly steeped in history, and in history being stories, and I can just kind of feel them coming through. So anyway, I thought to myself, yes, this is where I need to set my story. And so I did. And I just was so impressed with Scotland in that way, in particular. Yeah.
That is one particular. I've been to England, but I haven't been to any of the Scotland, Wales, or Ireland. That's bucket list. But I know Claire has, and
Yes.
I know that I want to open it up for conversation with everybody about that, because for me, a lifetime of reading books makes me now want to go to those places.
Right.
And, in my mind, I'm finding that what I imagine in my mind and when I get there are two different things.
Yes.
Because you still get that history and romance, but you get what always shocks me when I go these places is freeways. Freeways in England. I can remember going on this big, huge bus. We're headed to one of the Blenheim Castle, or one of the big palatial estates, and we're on a freeway. And I pictured quaint little roads, maybe with, drawn carriages, or wagons. And I'm getting there and I'm finding that, yes, they have the technology there the same as us. And it's a little shocking to me, because all the books we read are historical. So you're
Right.
back in that time. And even so much, I've been watching all these films from around the world. There's a wonderful new series, you guys, on the BBC called Joanne Lumley, who's one of my favorite British actresses, who takes you on trips. And she did a 3-part series to India, all the parts of India, and then the Silk Road. And
oh, wow.
I was so addicted because Iran shocked me. Just seeing the Iran and seeing the countries that are part of the Soviet Union, never even heard of them. And then seeing that they have millions of people and they have technology, just actually looked like they were pretty technology driven. So it's always amazing to me. When did you go to Scotland?
It was about 10 or 11 years ago.
Okay.
And I already knew at that time I wanted to write a story, but that just kind of bumped me over the edge to like, yeah, this is where it needs to be. And we did go to Ellendon Castle. And have you been there? No, you haven't. That's right. No, but it was a really wonderful experience to walk through an actual castle and see all the workings and everything. And they even were kind enough to let me take some pictures. So that was nice. Some of those pictures are probably going to show up in illustrations for book number 2.
So we're going to continue the story.
We are.
of dreaming that time. Do we have a title for the next book?
Well, I have tossed around a few things, but no, not a definite title. I tossed around something like, no, I won't even say. It's just, I'll just have to wait. I'll have to wait.
I'll wait with you. And
Okay.
Grace, I know, have you been to any of these places?
I've been to England, but I haven't been Scotland like you, Kathy. Scotland and Wales definitely on the bucket list.
Yeah.
But also, Kathy, to your point, I find the same thing. I remember going to Tuscany and to Florence, and in my mind, Florence was going to be this lovely old tiny place.
Oh my
And
God.
Florence is worse than New York City in terms of scale. You know, I was lucky enough to go to Pisa. And Pisa was more like how I thought everything was going to be, a small little town. But Claire, I had a question for you, because I have never been a fantasy reader at all. And I'm a very detailed study. So if I have the opportunity to do an interview with someone or to be interviewed by someone, I want to know their backstory. So I had the occasion to be interviewed by several fantasy writers, and I thought, I'm going to hate their books. And I was so shocked at it. Touches something, I don't want to say it's primeval or primordial, but there is something, I think, about fiction, not fiction writing, but fantasy writing that has really struck me. One of the books my first venture into it was by DC Gomez, and she writes, she's a Texan like Kathy, and she writes about, you know, the devil and the angels, and I'm like, oh, and a cat that talks who's really like from Egypt, and I was in love by page 5. So what do you think? Two questions maybe. What do you think my snobbery is about? Because that's what I think it is or was. And then what do you think that magic is that happens? Because there's something there that I didn't know was there, if you will.
So you're talking to me and not Claire Fullerton. Okay.
Correct. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Good.
But Claire Fullerton can jump in as well.
Well, I think what happens is, and this is actually what happened while I was writing, you go in, and I don't want to disparage any other type of writing, but I'm saying for me, and this is my breakout book, I went very deep in this book, and I just read you one little part here, but there are places where she actually engages with who I call the true voice or the way. And she has life-changing experiences, and that are not necessarily just something that you think, oh, well, that's fantasy, but you kind of think, well, this could happen. And while I was writing it, I was feeling it happen and wrote those things down. And I think when a writer goes to that deep place and they write from that place, then, you know, they could say beans and franks on the page and there's something that comes through, if that makes any sense, you know.
Yes.
And so anyway, that is where this book was written from, a very deep place inside me. There are times in the book where I literally, fortunately, I was by myself in a room, but I would just sob. I would just cry and cry because all of this stuff was important to the story. And I felt also, of course, important to me. And then a thing that connects us all, kind of like what I was speaking about in the beginning, you know, the hopes and the dreams, the desires. And so I knew because it connected with me, it would connect with my readers as well, even though it was a fantasy young adult book. So yeah, that's, if that answers.
Well, do you think, this is what I'm beginning to wonder, do you think that the genre of fantasy gives us permission to go someplace that we wouldn't if we were reading
Mhm. I do.
Something else. And that's what I'm wondering. It just says, of course the cat talks and the dragon.
Right.
But it allows us all to go to a place that we otherwise might be restrained by. Do you think that?
I do. I
Okay.
agree. I totally agree. And even though I knew how the story was going to end,
Mhm.
I kind of wrote towards that. But at the same time, I tried to leave it open as I was writing for my characters to talk to me and things to happen, things I didn't expect. And I think that really makes a book more interesting if you can do that at least to some degree. And so the writer is surprised, the reader is surprised, and it just makes for a more interesting book, I think. So yes, and there is one story within a story in that book. It's the story of, and I don't name it that, but the Eva and the traveler are finally at the cabin, and they're sitting in front of a toasty fire, warming up, drying off, and they're like, we need a story. You got one? And so they begin this story, and one begins, the other finishes. But this particular story, I didn't know. I knew they needed a story. I began to write, and as I began to write this story, it just flowed. And I began to cry at this story, even though somebody might read it and say, well, that's a good story in front of the fire, but there's something deep inside there um, that really flowed, really came up and was important in the story. So anyway, that's, that was one that I can look back at and say, sometime later when I was writing, I would think, I just need to read that story. So I'd go back and I'd read it, and I'm like, yeah, that is really good. That's really what I need to read right now. And, I might cry a little bit more. I know they're thinking, oh, well, she's kind of a fruitcake, but anyway.
I'm not thinking that.
You're not.
I think we're all authors here, right? So.
Yeah,
I think you're exactly what I hoped you would be. Hi, I'm Claire Fullerton, and I am speaking.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Hijack. But you are the ultimate artist, as far as I can tell, and it's nice to meet a member of my tribe that we see the world a little bit differently. And I suspected that was the case. I think that the illustrations are phenomenal.
Thank you.
I hope I'm holding this up correctly, but it's the man and he's driving in the wagon. It's this one.
Yes.
And then I really like,
I made my husband pose for that.
you're unbelievable. And I like this one, the remember this one. Can you see it?
It keeps coming in and out.
Okay.
And Claire, because of your
There we
background,
go.
it fades in and out. There it is. You got it.
Actually lends to the story.
Yeah, I have the direct sunlight coming right in behind my screen because it's 5:30 here, so I'm using that.
Oh yeah.
So that's what does it. But yeah, I just think that in terms of fantasy and in terms of genre, sometimes I think it's a shame that we have to, define ourselves that way, because we go into the process thinking I have something to say, and even though we have something to say, as writers, we're still exploring that. And I think that the happy accidents comes as a certain flow, the unexpected, and I think that artists understand that that's going to be part of the process, regardless of whatever the art is going to be, even if it's in dance. that there's always that
Yes.
element of the unexpected and the surprise. And I think that any artist sees that as part and parcel to the artistic process. And so I loved hearing you say essentially that, that's what I was hearing you say. And then I was going to ask you if you've been, excuse me, rather, I was going to ask you if you are Scotch Irish.
I am.
Yeah, I can tell by looking at you. So am
You
I
can.
on both sides,
Awesome.
and nothing but
Yes.
like time and memoriam that these people
Wow.
married each other, it turns out. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that Kathy Murphy, my good friend, we've been friends for a long time, and I love her, and she loves me.
I
So
love her
we
too.
have talked about, the Irish connection, and that there's something that resides in the DNA. And of course I did once live in Ireland, and I've been there multiple times. And I was named after Clare, Ireland, although it's spelled
Ah.
a different way. Yeah, and so the connections are there. But there is something within the Irish soul, within the Celtic soul, that is aligned with that, certain geography. And when those of us, the Celts, go to that region, there's almost like an ancestral memory that's activated, and there's a familiarity. And I say, I could have told you when I was 10, before I was even cognizant of it, that I always had a thing for a certain type of stone, that I always had a certain, capes, black velvet capes. I have 4 of them. Why? I live in California. I don't know. I mean, where in California, and it's these types of inexplicable, yearnings that I think are in the blood. And so when you were talking about being in Scotland, I can identify with that it's almost as if something just opens up, and it's just like a hyper awareness, and I think that's a wonderful thing if you're a fantasy writer, because you essentially are writing in a wider sphere, but you're saying something that is universal.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Yeah.
That is actually what I was trying to say.
You said it
Perfect.
beautifully. You said
Oh,
it beautifully.
good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But even to speak more to what you're saying, when I was in Scotland, I did feel like something deep inside came alive.
Yep.
It like woke up.
It's your ancestral memory.
It was,
Your
and that,
forebears were there.
yes, yes, absolutely. So that kind of gives me chills a little bit. I love it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful subject, and I think it's very real. And surely Italians feel the same way
Probably.
when they go to Italy, and the Greeks and the world over. But
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in ancestral memory, in that
Oh yeah.
it's only logic if we end up having the color of eyes and skin and hair, and then proclivities, artistic talent, athletic prowess, these types of things. Well, it only seems fit that the memories of what our forebears, while they were on God's green earth, what they
Yes.
experienced in terms of let's say things impactful.
It's beautifully.
Anywhere from trauma to joy, the myriad of emotions, they do affect your DNA. They do affect your cellular level.
Absolutely.
And if we're going to procreate and pass how we look and our proclivities down the line, well, doesn't it seem fit that we would also, therefore, the big things? And I think that women, God bless the women of the world, we are intuitive.
We are.
We do not dismiss such concepts by our very nature.
Exactly right.
And so
some do try to, but at
you
their own
don't.
harm. No, I don't at all.
You are such an incredible artist. I'm just in awe.
Oh, thank you so much.
Stunning.
Thank you very
Absolutely
much.
stunning.
Oh my
Lucky
God.
students. She has lucky students. That's all I've got to say.
I'm so envious that you can do this to such a degree. I mean, you're not just kind of a good artist. Look at the one with the horse. One more time, I'll try this, but it's this
Perfect.
one.
It's perfect.
Oh,
Thank you.
I can't believe you can do this.
Stunning.
Well, here's what you have to do in order to make art that speaks to the viewer. You have to feel it down into your very soul, down into the bottom of your soul, and then like see it, and then, okay, I see it, and then, all right, I need to draw these things. I need that to go there. I need some kind of visual help, maybe a photograph I find online or something that I can say, okay, these are the proportions, so I don't get crazy, with proportion. But anyway, I just wanted to share these two that are on a facing page. Let's see if it shows up.
What page is that?
It is page 116 and 117 in the new book, which you have. So let me see if I can put it up to, no, it doesn't really show up too well.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Does
That's
it?
good.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, so this is a dream sequence, a dream scene that she's having. And so she dreams she goes down into the river, and like the river actually calls to her. And so she goes down there, and let's see if I can have it.
Yeah.
I'm not showing it too well.
No,
but
it's perfect. You're fine.
is it? Okay, good.
Ah, look at that.
beautiful.
So anyway, I like that these are facing pages, and I found a good layout artist to do this for me. And look how the words go.
Beautiful.
They kind of go
Yeah.
in between,
It's
which I love.
beautifully laid out.
I wanted to see this so bad. I probably would have paid someone $1 million if they could do that for me, but she was very reasonable. But anyway, I just felt like that would so lend to the flow of the story and what I was trying to express. So there was it's almost like what came first, the chicken or the egg? So what came first, the story or the picture? And the answer is yes. They both informed the other. Some of the pictures I saw before I really got the story down good, and then others came while I was writing, and like, okay, I have to make sure this picture is in there. I got my granddaughter to pose for the one that you might have seen today on Breathless Bubbles. Yeah, so she was very patient with me. I've actually had her pose a couple of times, but anyway, I knew I needed to write the story. I wanted to say something to women in general, and not even just women, young women, because we all have that inside of us, and it's just important. It's important to know that we are not stuck, that we are amazing, and whatever is in the way of that, we need to find a way to move it out and see what we need to see and do what we need to do. Because, and I don't know what background y'all are from, but I'm a firm believer in we each have a particular, you could call it a destiny, but I think what I've read in the Bible, it says what's written for us, that it doesn't say we have to walk in it, but they're open, the steps are open for us to walk in. And so it's our choice always, but of course we just gotta push some things out of the way sometimes. But anyway, I'm excited for the book. It's starting to get into some schools and reading groups. There have been book clubs that have read it and invited me to come speak. And then I don't know if you saw on my Facebook page where these teenage girls came over. They wanted to meet the author, which was so fun. I thought it was so sweet. And so I got to sit with them in the living room and just share some of my process. And then they got to tell me about their hopes and dreams and let me encourage them. So that was fun. And anyway, I just feel like it's starting to take a life of its own, which I think a book should, you know. So anyway, any other thoughts or questions?
Well, the one thing that I think that stops us from reading these types of books is we're told it's time for you to grow up
Mm.
and, and to be responsible and be in reality. And actually, I think it stifles our creative juices. I know I had an art teacher in junior high and she hated everything that I did. And so,
Oh,
and I, everything I created was pure fantasy. And she says, that's not real. And then I had the opposite thing happen when I went back to college in my late 50s. They said, this is all fantasy.
yeah.
So, well, I'm just creating what I want to see,
Right.
And the interesting thing about it is, if you guys watch my painting process, the way I start out with an idea, it sometimes is nothing like the way it ends up. I mean, it's not even the same colors. I have an idea in my mind, and then something else takes over. And I feel like it's kind of, I know this sounds like you were saying, I feel like God just kind of takes my hand and I finished this painting and I was like, I can't believe I did it,
It's beautiful.
because I just
Oh,
love
yeah.
looking at it. And and it's hard for me to sell my pieces. And then also when I go places, I pick up things, and Claire does this. Claire, I want you to see this new gemstone I just picked up. I'd never seen
Oh
it.
my word.
I
What
never
is
seen
it?
it before. It's called a musite, and it's amethyst, but not clear. I mean, it's amethyst in color, like a smoky amethyst, and it's burgundy and mustard. And
Mm.
I don't know if you can really see it, but it's really quite. But when I go all those weird,
Incredible.
I will pick up rocks. I have rocks from all my travels. Of course, you have to be careful now because a lot of things are, you don't want to take historic, like Stonehenge or something.
Don't take Stonehenge home with you.
No,
Yes.
no.
Babylon or something, or Pompeii. I remember though, I bought a rock at Pompeii that I'd never seen before, and it's around here somewhere, but it's the most incredible shade of cobalt blue I've ever seen. But Claire collects these too. But every time I go, I've never seen this musite.
Well, it hasn't been treated. That's why I'm looking at it, is that amethyst, typically it starts off being a color other than what it becomes. And it's the heat that gets it that dark purple, which is,
It's almost like an agate,
Yeah.
kind of that's been polished, but it's
it's incredible, Kathy.
It's
well, it's
beautiful.
one of those
Beautiful.
things. But these things become like little I think, oh, well, I love this. I'll create something with these colors,
Mm.
Yes.
it's a springboard into, and then the next thing I know, I got something like this that looks nothing like that. But it's
Hold that up closer to the
Yeah, we
the
want to see.
camera. It's hard to see it
okay.
back
I
there.
will really hold it up.
Okay.
No, I mean the painting.
Paint, the painting.
Well, shoot. Let me see if I can. Okay.
Well,
I've got it
or
hooked.
if it's too hard, never mind.
No,
No, she can do it.
I can do it.
Oh, wow.
It's got this weird swirling
Yeah.
blue mist going over through the
Oh.
forest.
Yeah.
I love
And-
that.
It's really neat. I'll share it, but I love the colors.
Yes.
I do too.
It's kind of what I've got on tonight. That's
I
really
was
Yeah.
going to say it matches your outfit.
it
does.
does.
It
Or you
does.
match the
You
painting.
dress to match your outfit, and I go, no. I find that I'm drawn to certain colors, and I also wanted to show you guys too, because we're sharing our art. These are two paintings that I did, and they're called Dragon Wing 1 and 2. And I'm just trying. There we go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you can see them in different ways, but they're got the wings in them. But
For sure.
I don't, I wasn't even reading anything fantasy at the time. I just started and all of a sudden I go,
It's in your soul, Kathy. It's
It
in
is.
your soul.
well,
Your
it's funny
Celtic
because you
soul.
guys said that you went to, it's in your DNA. Well, I did my ancestry because I'm Murphy
What'd they say?
and my mother is a Maloney. And, we've got the Kelseys and all these names. And I was shocked when I got the results.
What are they?
I'm like 39, maybe it's 49%, 49% Northern European.
Mhm.
And I'm 19%, I know I'm 19% Scott Irish. And I also, we'll have to do the math, but the lowest percentage, I'm Norwegian. I had no idea. I was hoping they'd say African or something because I went to, have you ever been, you're talking about going to Ireland, you felt like you had this connection. Well, I was driving down the old river road in South Louisiana on the Plantation Road. Okay. And I'm driving and I've got my Girl Scouts in the car and we come around a bend and everything just started going in slow motion when I ran around this corner. It was that I pulled over because it was a hearse, a black funeral and a hearse and all these cars. And I remember turning and looking at the driver and he's looking at me as he went by and I just knew I'd been there before. It was I still play it out in my mind over and over. It was like slow motion. They're passing and I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, I know these people. I have no idea who these people were.
Right.
No idea. But that every time I've ever gone back, it's down at Natchitoches, Louisiana, which is named after the Native American twin, Natchitoches, and then his twin was Nacogdoches, where I had one weekend in Texas. Did you guys know that? There were
I didn't.
twin Native American Indians, and one settled in Natchitoches, Louisiana, one in Nacogdoches. It's just
That is so interesting.
but those,
I had no
those
idea.
moments in life, and I always think I've got to work that somehow into a book because we're going through all these homes of Clementine Hunter, the famous outsider artist that was down there and all this stuff. But it happens, and I've been in foreign countries where I go around a bend and I just feel like I've walked those cobblestones before. Italy is like that. Italy is just one of those places that, you get in the gondola and you follow the travels of Marco Polo.
Yeah.
But you guys, if you get a chance, watch those Joanna Lumley travels with Joanna Lumley, where she goes to India. I think there's another one, but I watched the 3-part Indian series, which is amazing. And then the Silk Road, we went to Kyrgyzstan. I've never even heard of these countries. And I was in love with one of the countries that in the Soviet Union, they had these young boys who, from a very early age, they dance, but it's almost like Taibo. I don't know. They're doing, they do that Russian where they squat and kick their leg out.
Sure.
They're just like so athletic and so fast that she was like, oh, golly gee, how do they do that? And they're just little boys. But dance in that country is considered very masculine and macho.
Interesting.
And here in our country, Claire is a dancer. It takes a certain type of, I've always said the hardest sport in the world is ballet.
Yes.
Because any man that ever said, oh, I've heard men say they're just so effeminate. I thought, oh, honey, you couldn't even keep up with a real ballet dancer. They are so strong and they have complete control.
Like Baryshnikov, the most gorgeous specimen of a human being I have ever seen. I saw him dance live, I think twice. The guy was like water.
It's amazing to watch.
In the air.
Incredible.
But
incredible.
Yes. Like
these moments that we see is a story playing out, whether it's a song, a poem, a short story, or all these labels that I don't know why we have to label everything. Can't we just say these are great stories?
Yes.
Because what happens is when you label something fantasy, they think, oh, that's kiddish. Or here's what I found that, you know, I love the Bollywood films because they're so romantic. And they go, and everybody rolls their eyes and they say, you like romance? And I go, hell yeah, I like romance
Of
because
course.
it's
Yeah.
it's pure fantasy. Because if some guy looked at me like those guys look at those girls in those Hollywood moves, I just swoon over. I mean, they know how they're like Casanova, you know, and you know, the Italian guys, they really know how it's done.
Yeah.
So it's
But fantasy is a good thing because, you know, typically my last two novels were considered upmarket fiction, meaning I pay attention to language. I care about vocabulary. I care about every word. Not everybody's like that. Nobody likes to read it. Not everybody likes to write it. And so there's a certain expectation, even with literary fiction, when you hear that word, which is
Yes.
why upmarket has now come to the fore. But that having been said, the good thing about fantasy is, you know, going into it that you're being asked for a suspension of disbelief.
Right.
And that's the good news, because right
Yes.
out of the gate, you're saying, here's what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
not saying anything. I'm making a point. And so as only an artist, only somebody that could draw to the degree that you do, to the, you know, the elevated degree that you do, really has a handle on the concept of, I'm going to take a thought as if I were taking an image, as if I had something to say, and I'm going to blow it up
Yes.
and make it larger, manifest, because I can. And so with fantasy, you're going into it immediately with here are the rules. There are no rules. So let's get
Really
about
well said,
let's get about the
Claire.
business of telling the
you know
story.
what impresses
Here's
me
the story.
more than anything when I read books.
What?
It's when people just put everything in, they're all in.
Yeah.
And no matter what the story is, they're all in, whether it's set in space, set in the past, set in the future, set in the now, the language, and you can, you know, they're totally lost in creating a world that I want to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And the
Well,
best
and
theater is that way too, and the best plays are that way, when they're just all in. Because if anybody hesitates, you lose your audience. You know?
Exactly.
you know it. Yeah, it's almost like getting out of character if for an actor, you know, if somebody is even like doing comedy or something and they start laughing at their own comedy, you lost your audience. So in my mind, when I was writing this book, I was writing not only about a different time, a a fantasy land that I developed, but it's also you dig deep and you go to a different dimension, if that makes sense. It's not just the what you see in the day-to-day everything that we go through. It's like, well, there's a deeper undercurrent, and let's touch that. Let's explore that a bit. And so then what does the protagonist do about that? And does she engage with that? So that is what, you know, I wanted to do. And I think with realm making, so to speak, the author has to really set the parameters of this mythical land, you know, and so there aren't necessarily rules to begin with, but as you go, you're like, okay, so it's this way and it has to be that way. So it's that way throughout the story because you have to keep it, you know, consistent to keep your reader.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And so I think a good editor also, and I did hire a good one. He caught me a few times. Now, is this in the fall or is it in the summer? And if she's this age here, then what about that? And so I think that's what a good editor will do for you. But, you know, because
Yeah, and then
sometimes,
you know next time next time with the next book,
Yes.
that yeah, time and place, always.
I've
Mhm.
heard
And what's outside the
authors
window.
who also have character descriptions of their people so they can refer to them. They describe them completely,
Right.
the way they look, they had green eyes. I mean, that's been done to death. But what they said, by just describing them without having to describe them, when you write it, you have that in your mind, and then the reader takes on what they, through their experiences, what they're, what they see them look like. That's why it's always so upsetting to me when I read a great book and then I go to the movie and it's nothing like what I perceive the
Right.
character. There's very few. To Kill a Mockingbird was excellent. It was exactly how I pictured everybody in the film but they work so tightly together. And then, one's a Pulitzer Prize winner and one was an Oscar Award winner. But there's, when they can take that, and that's why I think authors should have a part in the development of film, because even if they're just a consultant, uh,
Right.
they can say, no, this is not, the way I perceive my character. I mean, when I sold my book to film, I see me, because that's what the book's about. And then when I read the first screenplay, the person is not me. It was the first screenplay they wrote was who they were wanting to pitch it to. And I
Mm.
said, but that's not me. Have the actor play me. Don't have my character become the actor. I think
Right.
and that's why you need to have the author involvement. So hopefully this will be made to a film and you'll be involved in it.
Oh my
Just like,
goodness.
anything from who ever knew Game of Thrones would be what has happened to Game of Thrones,
I know. I
or
know.
even Harry Potter, or any of these type of books. Or I know people laugh about it, but my daughters were right at that age of Twilight. We went to all the premiere movies, and
Sure.
I bought into it myself. I loved it. I thought it was the perfect romance, and it was so bizarre,
Yeah.
but I grew up with Dark Shadows. I knew all
Oh,
about it.
my favorite.
I love Dark Shadows.
Yes.
Jonathan Freed.
Yeah, Angela
Jonathan
Lee.
Freed.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was great. So, you started on your next book?
I have. And here's how I start. It's how I started with this one too. I keep a spiral notebook beside my bed because sometimes I dream scenes. I
Mhm.
do. I dream them. I wake up, and you do too. I'm here
Mhm.
seeing you shake your. I wake up, they're so fresh. And so I have to write them down immediately, or they will kind of evaporate. And I bet a lot of writers do that. So I do have that 3-section spiral notebook beside my bed. Sometimes I wake up and I think of a name, or I think of a place. And so I just am, that's how I've started book number 2. It's kind of all disjunct right now. And I don't have the full story, but I do have pieces of it. So that's kind of fun. And I will say this to speak to what you said just a minute ago. So many people who have read my book have said, this book is cinematic. It needs to be made into a movie.
That's so
I'm like,
great.
all right.
That's so great.
I know. And really, the reason I think is because I would kind of get in a relaxed place, and maybe with some soft music, and start thinking about the story, where I was, where I wanted it to go, and scenes would begin to play out in my mind. And then at that point, I would write what I saw and write what I heard. Sometimes in the kitchen, I'd be cooking, my characters would start arguing in my head. They would just start talking, well, know this, know that. And I'm like, okay, let me grab my book, my spiral notebook. And so I'd have to write it down. And, I think maybe a lot of authors do have similar experiences. Have y'all had some of those things happen? Probably.
I always love, excuse me, I always love talking to other authors because we actually don't sound crazy when we describe what you just described.
I know. She's hearing voices.
Of course that happens. Yeah. Excuse me. Yes,
Good.
I love talking to other authors for that particular reason.
I know, because it's so alive to you. These characters, these people are alive. They're breathing, they're doing stuff, and they're talking. So, and it's what they should do.
It's true. And what's really funny is I've been working on a novel forever, but that's what I thought I would write first. But, I got asked to write this the story of my life. But I found a picture of a young girl, and I have it. I mean, I would love to use it for the cover of my book, because she's blonde. She kind of is Stevie Nicks-y, and she's reading the biggest book I've ever seen, like of Alice in Wonderland, that's really old, and she's just intent, but she's looking very today, but she's in that world. And that's the girl I have in my mind when I'm writing this book. Everybody goes, oh, is this book about you? Why is it if you write fiction, they always think it's about you? And when I wrote my book, they go, is that true?
It's so true.
And they
It's
go,
so true.
did you make that up?
Wouldn't you like to know?
I said, well, a memoir is your memory. So, and you don't always get it right. I learned that. I actually talked about that in my book, because I sat down with my father to read the part about my parents. And when I got done, he goes, that's really beautiful. And I said, my dad's never given me a compliment in my life. He's a 2-time Korean War vet, great Santini guy. And he goes, that was really beautiful. And I was going, I was like crying, tears were running down my face. He goes, but none of it's true. I go, what? No, that's not what happened. And then he told me his version. My mom and dad's version were like totally different. My dad's was just the facts, and my mother's was storytelling.
Yeah.
And I realized that we become a part of the stories that we're told, and they're not all. If you've ever read Big Fish by Daniel Wallace, that's probably one of the best books I've ever.
I love that story. I love it.
It's and that is fantasy in a way, because it's the dad telling the story and all these fantastical characters. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And Daniel Wallace is such a nice guy. But anyway, these stories.
It tells the truth. It tells the truth, Big Fish does. And you cry at the end because it's
single time. Every single time. It just, okay. So when you get done reading her book and are waiting for the next one, there is a film I want you to watch that is probably the best film I've ever watched about storytelling ever. It's called Mara, Maara. It stars Ahmed Haven, which is a South Indian actor, and it's this. His name is Mara. It's not a girl. It's a guy, and he's an artist. And it's all about a little girl hears this story when she's very small, and she never forgets it. And she grows up and she finds out it was based upon this real guy. So she goes in search. You guys.
I want to see it.
I wrote it down.
Amazon Prime. And you will fall in love with this story. It takes you places I just get chills. I've seen it 3 times.
Tomorrow night's entertainment. Thank you, Kathy.
Yes.
Now it's subtitled, so that's right. I've watched so many of them now, I don't even see the subtitles anymore. But it is probably the best film ever on what we do, which is telling a story. And I think that if we all do like Galen did, when we write the story, we play it out in our mind as a film. If everybody would do that, then more of our books would get made. They're going to be looking for a lot of content as soon as everything opens back up. But did you know that there's Hollywood, there's Bollywood, and I just learned there's Tollywood.
Tollywood, what's that?
Tollywood is the Telugu Hindi dialect in South India, and they actually are competing against Bollywood.
Wow.
I never even knew this stuff. I'm learning so much stuff from watching films and reading books, and really what is making us all, if we would focus on the connections that we're making with each other, like tonight, through telling our stories and sharing our stories that we write and that we read and that what a great world this would be.
It would be great.
I mean, that's what we all have to do. So that's what I'm like the Johnny Appleseed of storytelling. I'm going around, I'm saying, okay, you need to read this author, and you need to read this author, and I'm planting those seeds. And then we all get together and we share the harvest of the orchard, that's what Girlfriend Weekend is. It's really, if everybody would just keep in mind, share the best story you know how to tell and write. And then, your work speaks for itself. The biggest problem, somebody actually emailed me today and said they didn't want to be a member. They didn't see any benefit.
Oh.
I said, oh, well, I joined a year and a half ago and I don't understand what there is to do. Well, obviously, you're not on social media or on my website, or you're checking out the newsletter and now the magazine. But I invited her to come tonight. I sent her the Zoom and I said, I've never seen you on the calendar of events ever asked for a Zoom. I go, join us tonight and see what we do. I think if everybody would get on the same page and they go, book club, that's good. And I go, oh no, I'm not going to make it boring. I mean, I'm going to bring out my little band sheet and we're just going to go. He's lovely. So, and
I think the connections are just like a treasure. They're just like gold. Wonderful. I'm so glad I joined.
I am.
And thank you for all you do.
Enjoy talking to you personally. I've had wonderful conversations with Claire for a long time, and Grace is brand new. And I just wish there would be, I feel like, I'm shouting to the wind sometimes.
Remember River Jordan when I first got down there? Have y'all, my two new friends, Grace and Galen, have y'all been to Pulpit Queens in person? Okay.
Yeah.
In your life. And I had no idea what I was walking into. I've been twice. And it's like, I said it was the Mardi Gras of the book world. And it is. We're talking 3 days. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's happy. Everybody's dressed up in a way. And I grew up in Memphis and went to a private girls' school, and my mother was a queen. You get the picture on me. It didn't take. I ended up a little more of the bohemian. I live in California, but would I have turned out as my mother planned? It'd be different. And so when I was growing up, we didn't wear leopard, and this was tacky, and this was tacky, and everything's tacky. And if it's not this, it's tacky. I go down there. Everybody is like swinging from the rooftops, wearing leopard. They're wearing crowns. They're wearing over the top. Everybody's having a blast, and everybody there is a reader, and they were excited. And there were people from book clubs that had traveled with their book club members, like put 4 women in the car, let's go. And they do this every year. And they, check into a hotel and kiss their husbands and their dogs and their children goodbye. Bye. Yeah. We are going. And it's like everybody assembled for the exact same reason, which is we're so excited. Lisa Wingate is here. She wrote a book called Before We Were Yours, and she's going to be on there talking about how she did it and what the inspiration is. So you're amongst all of your friends, you're meeting friends. There might have been 200 and something people there the first year, 200 to 300. Same thing the second year. But you can come and go as you please, but everybody wants to come 9 a.m. and stay there. You'll go out and have lunch and come back, whatever. There's no, you have to do anything, but everybody wants to, up until say 5 something, in the afternoon, and everybody's listening to their favorite authors back to back to back, and you're meeting new authors, and there's people selling jewelry and paintings and ceramics, and there's all the books are being sold for 3 days and 3 nights. And at the end of it is a big party. But I met so many people that, and River Jordan was one that said, Claire, I can't explain what any of this is. Just walk through the door. And she was so right, because it keeps snowballing. You get in the Pulpwood Queens, it keeps getting bigger, and it's the strangest thing. And it's all about the power of, of connections and people with a common interest. And it's like the strangest things happen just because you're kind of with the program. Social media, yes, but when we all convene in person, I want y'all to go down there, because you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. But it'll be the same way in January online, because you're just meeting people.
Actually, a week long. A week long. We're going to have.
What are the dates?
We're going to January 10th through the 16th.
Okay.
And we know everybody can't sit in front of the screen for a week. Some will. I did. In fact, I was on Zoom on Saturday, a girlfriend weekend, for 16 hours.
You said that.
Oh my
So
word.
this year, we're spreading it out over a week. And the thing about it is, if you sign up to go, everybody pays. Everybody has to pay to come, because it takes enormous amount of work to get this to fly. But you sign up to come, and then everything's recorded like this. It's put up on my Kathy L. Murphy YouTube channel. So next year, only those who paid to come will get to see those anytime they want throughout the year.
That's great.
So
Which is great. That's wonderful.
It's going to be great. And we have some amazing people coming this year, and more people than ever, more bloggers, more podcasters, and some surprises. And we figured out how to work in some of this, because we've always had tiara contests, and we've always had talent shows. One time we did a play. Well, several times we've done plays or musicals. We've had comedians.
The Shady Ladies.
The Shady Ladies came, which dressed all as witches, like voodoo priest witches, and did this dance
With their brooms, and it was like, and they pad themselves, because they all had derrieres, like the great outdoors, and they were shaking.
Were padded.
It
was like, I've known these girls forever, and they just all get together and they practice these dance, and they dress up as their fantasy witch.
So great.
And it's just fun. And I did that for my friend Tawana, because Tawana loved anything New Orleans. She collected voodoo dolls and all this stuff. So I did that in memory of her, because she was my executive director that I lost. But you never know. We've had musical, we've had Joelle Sonjay, who was a Grammy Award-winning Cajun performer, performed one year with Richard Bowden, who started out with Don Henley in his first band, Don Henley of the Eagles. They grew up together, and he ended up playing lead guitar for Linda Garonstadt. And he started a Pulpwood Queen chapter at Music City, Texas, which is in Linden. And him and Joelle came, and I didn't know Joelle was going to really come till the last minute. And he brings out all that Zydeco music. And that was the year we had it in Marshall at this art center. And we had all the Pulpwood Queens were dancing on the tables.
I love it. And I love Zydeco music.
Yeah, we got 5 pages in Southern Living, and we made the front page of the Dallas Morning News. That was a big year for us. But you never know who's going to come. We've had John Barrett on Midnight in the Garden. We've had Fannie Flagg. We've had Pat Conroy. We had him twice. We've had Alice Hoffman, and I've got some really good Adriana Trigiani. We're going to have some really big surprises this year too. So we try to get some
Looking forward.
bigger names so that people will, they'll be the draw. But the main thing is they come, they find out maybe their favorite author is the G. Claire,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
what is important that is a lot of festivals you go to, you've got your A-list keynotes, and then you've got the peons, because I've been one of those peons. I know what it's like. But at our girlfriend weekend, it's a level playing field. 300 people show up to hear Pat Conroy, 300 people show up to see you. And I don't.
She'll come down one year. It defies description.
We're
The
hoping.
energy of it.
We're hoping 2023 we'll be able to meet back in person, but we're going to probably do hybrid because
that's wonderful.
Because
that's brilliant.
all the authors, like I just got another book from Janet Skesley Charles in Paris. Boo Walker just sent me his new book in Spain. All those guys came last year from these other countries, and they're all coming back, and hopefully they'll bring more and more. But you guys, it's really, I think the reason why it is so different is I went into it not as a business. I went into it as this is what I want to do the rest of my life. And a lot of people go, are you successful? And I said, yes, very successful. I've got thousands of people on board, 800 chapters. We're growing so big. But money-wise, maybe not so much. But I don't think true success in life is counted in dollar signs.
I totally agree.
I think it's counted in the things that bring you the greatest joy. You can make all the money in the world. My computer's about to go dead. I'm trying to find the cord. You can make all the money in the world, and if you're not happy, it's torture. But if you are happy, where is that other cord? There it is. My computer's about to go dead. I guess we've been talking too much. Anyway, but this is what I love to do, and this is what I'll be doing the rest of my life. And I may be in a walker or in a wheelchair. And I don't know if you saw, my favorite thing I've done this year is when I did the Marie Antoinette.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was amazing. That was amazing. Well, and Claire was asking who's been to an actual one where you go in person. I have not, but I did go to this past February. Was it January, February?
It was January. Always around Martin Luther King weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, you went this year.
I loved it.
Pretty amazing. It was amazing.
It was amazing. I loved it. And like I was saying, of course, I met you there face to face, cyber met. And then I first saw Claire, and I loved, Claire, what you had to share as well. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful time. And I'm like, okay, I just want to know these people. And I just, with the creative heart and soul like you have, like Claire has and I do, you hardly have to say too much, and you just feel the connection.
Yep.
And so that has been just a wonderful thing.
It's a community. And I can tell you that I told Kathy Murphy this, that I can look on online bookstore, Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and it always says people that bought Little T also bought, and they're always pulpit queens, always. And so it's just the power of the pulpit queens. I mean, it is so much fun, and it's a community, and it's a blast, and we all legitimately love the arena we're in and feel blessed to be there. That being said, the sales also come from affiliation with the pulpit queens. It's just it operates on every level, and I cannot thank my lucky stars enough for having fallen in with this group a few years ago, because it's just the gift that keeps on giving. So
wonderful.
Yeah,
it's going to grow.
Nice to meet you,
the magazine took off like a rocket, and Mandy and I are in shock. She got 1,000 emails after the second edition came up, and it was funny. people came to her and they go, I don't know, $10 a page, that's kind of out of my budget. And I go, what? How could $10 a page be out of anybody's budget? It's going to go up next year because she sold out the cover, the inside cover and the back cover, the first 2 hours that she posted it. So, but the circulation is going to be huge, and it's going all around the world, and we're going to be working on print copies. So and then you guys know I'm starting the Kathy L. Murphy show, which is going to be a online talk show where I'm going to feature authors, storytellers, songwriters, celebrities, film people, anybody that has a story. It's going to be about storytelling, and we're going to do a lot of really crazy things. And Robert Waltney is going to be my co-host. He's my book and film club co-host, and Mandy's going to be our producer. So
Sweet.
we're pumped. So anyway, thank you guys for coming.
Nice to see you.
Thank
Galen,
you.
thank you so much for your wonderful book. It's beautiful inside and out.
Love it.
Everybody watching this channel tonight, you need to go to my website and you can click on any of the book and it takes you to Main Street Reads, which will ship the book out. You're helping an independent bookstore. And the more, and the other thing, I got to tell you guys, you'll be the first to know. We've got Sarah Pinner coming next year of The Lost Apothecary, and her publisher, thanks to Sherry Sonjay, everybody who buys books at Girlfriend Weekend next year is going to get a Lost Apothecary book bag. So we're pretty pumped about that. And Sarah has written quite a book. It'll be on a reading list, but I have to the side of me my stacks of 2022 picks Mandy and I are working on. I've got my 2021 up on my bar. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stacks of books to go through yet.
Wow.
And they're still coming in. So Mandy's helping me. We're reading together, and she'll read a book and she'll go, oh God, check this one out. And we think exactly alike. It's all about the story. And, you know, there's never, you're going to have to convince me on this one. We're like, oh man, I loved it too. Like The Shores of Our Souls by Kathy Ramsberger. Oh my gosh, blew me away. Blew her
I
away.
love that title even. That's a wonderful
Oh,
title.
she's amazing.
Kathy is a lovely, lovely person, and that's a great.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
she's fabulous. But you guys, we're going to have fun, and we look forward to what you're going to post tomorrow, Galen. Any last words for people that are listening in on our Kathy L. Murphy channel that you want to share with anybody about your book that I may have missed?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, well, about the book. Yes, I hope you'll definitely buy it and read it. I think you'll enjoy it. But really, for people who feel like they have a story inside that's growing, please don't ignore that. Explore it, engage with it, and let it develop and start writing, and you'll be surprised. You'll probably surprise yourself and those who read it later. So I think whenever that happens, it's important, and we need to definitely pay attention. So
Well, thank you. And I'm excited about sharing your next book. But just as a reminder before we close tonight, this Saturday is going to be a big day because Saturday morning, Mandy Haynes is going to be we have a writers club. The Pulpit Queens Timber Guys has a writers club, and Mandy Haynes is going to teach you how to self-publish. And she's going to go through the whole process of how you can get distributed by independent bookstores, how it actually works. And she actually has done this to tremendous success. She's gotten more reviews. She had, like, going in before the first day, 300 copies pre-sold. She knows what she's doing. And so that's Saturday morning at 10. And I know
Right.
I'll send you 8 for you. I'll send you the Zoom link. And then Saturday night is going to be amazing because we're going to be discussing Auntie Mame.
Oh.
And I don't know if Robert, he said he was going to do this. And I said, well, I've been as Andy Mame at Girlfriend Weekend. So I feel like I should do another character. And he goes, well, you be Patrick and I'll be Auntie Mame. So I have no idea how, but I've got an idea of how to be Patrick, which is the little boy,
Yeah.
that so y'all, it's going to be a trip. We're having more fun on our book club. I tell you, Ruthie Landis has been coming on board, and she has all this Broadway experience as an actor with her and her father. And she is, I go, you have to be on every show because her insight to behind the story, like last week we did My Man Godfrey. I don't know if you saw, I went as William Powell.
I loved your makeup as Godfrey.
Everybody goes, that dang Robert. He said, oh my God. He goes, you are hot.
Oh,
I said, well, maybe I should have been as a man, because if I'm hot as a man, nobody ever says that about me as a woman. And I said, wow, thank you, Robert. He goes, no, I mean your smoldering eyes.
oh my gosh. Oh, so
More fun. We have more fun. It's just
funny. That's funny.
He's a doll.
Well,
He's a doll.
so you're going to send us Zoom links for Saturday morning?
Yes, if you guys want them, I will send them to you.
Yeah, Kathy, send it to me.
I will send it to you. I'll probably
Thank
send
you.
them out on Friday because for Claire, she has to get up at 8 to watch the.
No, I have to be here at 8. I have to get up, earlier than that. I'll just see, it's anybody's guess at that hour of the morning, what's going on in this house. And so, but yeah, the good news is it's going to be on tape if I don't see all of it live.
It's going to be taped, and I will send it to you too, Galen.
Right.
I'm getting regulars that come on board, so I'm sending links. The problem was today was I had to take, it stormed so bad here last night, I couldn't take my daughter home after Mother's Day. So I had to get up and take her to Jefferson. We left at the crack of dawn to get her back to work at 9. And then I had to stop by my sister's, and she insisted on giving me this table and chairs. So I didn't even get back here till noon, and it's storming like crazy here right now.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I didn't lose electricity. So thank you, Galen. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Nice to see you.
We'll see you both Saturday, okay? So
Okay.
it's all about the story.
Bye, Kathy. Bye. Bye, Galen.
Great to see you all. Thank you again, Kathy.
Thank you, Galen. Bye-bye.